I have a warrant for your arrest.
Arrest for what?
Penal Code 243 violation. Unlawful termination of a pregnancy.
You gotta be kidding me.
That is my personal business.
That's for the courts to decide, ma'am.
Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell just put out a political ad that helps Americans visualize where we are headed as a country, with anti-abortion Republicans outlawing abortion in various red states and congressional Republicans threatening to outlaw abortion on a federal level. Now, it's important to watch that clip in context, and then I'll tell you how this isn't hyperbole. This has actually already happened in our country. Let's watch.
Gross.
Mary Anderson?
Yes?
I have a warrant for your arrest.
Arrest for what?
Penal Code 243 violation. Unlawful termination of a pregnancy.
You gotta be kidding me.
That is my personal business.
That's for the courts to decide, ma'am. Your medical records have been subpoenaed and Dr. Landry's already in custody.
No, my God, you can't just.
You will have to submit to a physical examination.
What? By who?
No one's touching me.
Ma'am, turn around. Put your hands behind your back now.
Why is this happening? Love you, honey bear.
We're just enforcing the law here.
Elections have consequences. Vote Democrat on November 8th.
Now, elections absolutely do have consequences, although just a quick caveat before I continue. It's worth noting that when Democrats in Congress had the opportunity to codify Roe v. Wade, codify reproductive rights in this country under the Obama administration, when we had, of course, a Democratic president and a super majority of Democrats in Congress, they failed to do it. In fact, Obama had campaigned on codifying Roe, and then once he was elected, he backed away from it, saying that it just wasn't a priority. Well, now the chickens have come home to roost, and women in this country, especially those living in red states, are suffering the consequences of Democratic negligence and the impotent politics that we've experienced from them for the last several decades. With that said, though, I do want to lend some credibility to what might appear as a hyperbolic political ad, right? Some might think that's not gonna happen. They're not gonna arrest women, get out of here. But remember, the evangelical right in this country, who have a firm grip on the Republican Party, want to go back to the days prior to Roe, when women had no protections in regard to their reproductive rights. And women absolutely were being arrested for getting abortions. And I want to give you one quick example, because our history is important to remember. The whole point of history is to, avoid repeating it. And so one woman in Florida by the name of Shirley Wheeler had been arrested after she was told that she should get an abortion due to complications. When she did, she suffered some consequences. Let's watch.
23-year-old Shirley Wheeler was living in Florida. She was pregnant and advised by her doctor to seek an abortion for medical reasons. But abortion was illegal in most US states, including Florida. So Ms. Wheeler did what an estimated 1 million women did each year before 1973. She found a way to end her pregnancy. She paid $150 to have an abortion and developed complications. When she went to the hospital, someone reported her to the police. When she refused to name the person who had performed the abortion, police officers arrested her. She was charged with the crime of manslaughter and faced a possible sentence of up to 20 years in prison.
She not only was prosecuted, she was convicted for that abortion, and she was then sentenced to 2 years of probation. Get a load of this. The conditions of her probation were as followed. She was told that she needed to marry Robert Wheeler, the man that she was living with for 3 years. And if she refused to marry him, and of course he's also the man who had gotten her pregnant, and if she refused to marry him, then she would have to leave that household and move back in with her parents in North Carolina. She was a 23-year-old woman. And if she refused to do it, well, then she would be violating her probation. She also had to, get a load of this, avoid injurious or vicious habits, whatever that means. But as you can imagine, back in the 50s and 60s, the treatment toward women and the way they were expected to behave was gross, vicious, and of course had a major double standard relative to how men were expected to behave. Yeah. But Cenk, this is a reality that we've already faced in the country, and the right wing wants to get us right back there.
Yeah, so I don't know why anybody would say any of this is hyperbolic. They're saying we want to make it illegal. They have made it illegal in many states, and they're saying it's the equivalent of murder, that you're ending a life. So are they going to arrest people for what they call the equivalent of murder? Of course they are. So maybe they'll just start with the doctors in some states, but we've already seen women being punished in other states already. So women who are having miscarriages, and they say, no, you have to bleed out. We won't let you take out a fetus that's already deceased, has no chance of being born alive. They're like, it doesn't matter. You're to go home and keep bleeding. That's a fact. They chased a 10-year-old girl out of Ohio, and then when she went and got an abortion because she was a victim of incest and rape, then they pursued the doctor who did the abortion in Indiana. No, it's happening right now. So you don't have to worry about, oh, hey, maybe it'll happen later. And we're all sleepwalking through it. And I think part of the reason, honestly, is just the culture in American media of you have to call everything 50-50. So maybe they'll arrest people. No, they're not maybe, they're doing it now, right? And so will they start arresting women regularly for abortion? Of course they will. They made it illegal and they say it's murder. You're nuts if you don't think they're gonna start arresting women. Let alone the fact that they're already doing that same exact thing to doctors. No, so when you accurately describe them as what they are, tyrannical government, then the media goes, you're not allowed to say things that are true, okay? God damn it, it is tyranny. And by the way, you know why you don't see it as often? Because the middle class and the poor in this country are invisible. They do this kind of thug tactics to real people all the time. You only ever see it when it touches the elites. Then everybody gets out. Did you know that they're arresting doctors? Yeah, that's the whole goddamn point of making it illegal. Yes, we knew that. And so, and one more thing about that. I want to also pick up on what Anna said about the Democrats. So we're an honest show. I know that's like crazy in today's media, right? So you have to pick a side and you have to say, okay, these are all, or these guys on this side are 100% correct, or these guys on this side are 100% correct. No, it's not true. So Democrats, they could have made abortion legal nationwide. They had many opportunities, they chose not to, including just now. They say, oh, well, our beloved filibuster that protects all of our corporate donors. Without that, we'd have to pass minimum wage and higher wages and give you guys healthcare. We don't want to do any of that. We just don't think abortion is that important. And by the way, can they raise the filibuster? Can they make it even an exception for the filibuster? Yeah, they did it for raising the debt ceiling. So they say for our stock portfolio, it's important to do an exception for the filibuster. Oh, they're gonna start arresting women across the country? We'll use it as a political prop. So no, we're not gonna do it, not important enough to make an exception for the filibuster. So the Democrats are hypocritical, lying a-holes, but the Republicans are actually fascist monsters who are actually going to do exactly what you saw in that ad. So thank you to Eric Swalwell, who's apparently a good fighting Democrat that wants to point that out. I love any Democrat who wants to fight back against Republicans. There just aren't that many of them.